Alright, huge movie fanatic Nate returning with yet again another solo review. This is probably the most recent one so far that I'm reviewing, which is of course Gravity. Now I saw the trailer for this back in, I was seeing some summer movies earlier this year and stuff like that. And I thought the trailer looked pretty goddamn great actually, you know. And regardless of Clooney or whatever, Sandra Bullock or whatever, I thought the trailer showed promise. So I saw Gravity. This is actually the most recent movie I've seen in the theater. I really don't go to the theater very often. So I saw Gravity in 3D. I figured, like I say, I figured it'd be worth it. And I'm just going to cut to the chase. This is the best movie I've seen in the theater since There Will Be Blood. Now, I didn't see The Master in the theater, unfortunately, because it didn't play anywhere. Well, I probably could have gone to the city, but forget that. I ain't going to do that. So, this is the best movie I've seen in the theater since There Will Be Blood. This is probably my third favorite movie of the 21st century after There Will Be Blood, The Master, and it's probably Gravity. I mean, I could not believe how great this movie was. And the thing is, it's kind of disappointing because, well, it's kind of a good thing, I guess, but but everyone else likes this movie too. And that's kind of weird to me because the movies like There Will Be Blood and The Master that I really like aren't necessarily, I mean, I think people who have seen There Will Be Blood generally think it's good, but it's weird. I mean, I'm not gonna, not gonna not like it because people do, but it's almost like hopeful. I'm just surprised that people like it. I don't think, I can't wait for the Blu-ray of this movie. I've only seen it once. I probably should have saw it more than once. I can't say enough about Gravity. It's so me in the sense that it'd be nice if there were more movies like this, but then at the same time, if there were, it kind of take away, then they wouldn't be as special when they do come out. So it's just as well that there aren't movies like this. And what I mean by like this is like taking place very much like Carnage, which I got to review someday, all at basically one time, and very little, if any, time passes. We might be seeing like, well, I think she sleeps or something like that. So, but for the most part, we're seeing it like real time, like no time passes. We're just seeing everything. And let me just start by saying, holy shit, like the first shot, I don't know how long, I'm sure it's on somewhere on the net, I'm sure someone's clocked it, but the first shot lasts like 12 or 15 minutes or something like that. It's probably more like, maybe it's 10 minutes or something like that. But holy shit, the first shot, which of course is visual effects, but still, is like 10 minutes long or something, or more, or something like that. And first of all, if you've seen Black Hole, which I love, a Disney movie, which I got to review someday, the first shot is very much like that, except for instead of coming in from this side, the ship comes in from this side, but where it's just the Earth. And then it's like you can hear, and just like Black Hole also, I think you can hear them talking. And, you're just like, what are we looking at? What's going on here? But then if you're paying attention, then you see like the shuttle or whatever coming from way over there. And I thought when this was happening, I'm like, oh man, that's genius. But the thing is, the shot, they didn't cut away from it, and it just like kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And I grew up with 2001. I think it's one of the best movies ever made. It might be my favorite. It's certainly one of the best movies ever made for me. 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I grew up with that. I mean, I was watching that movie. I pretty much watched the middle part, the Discovery, or not the Discovery, but the space stuff, the middle part, which is after the apes and up until Dave goes out of the ship. I didn't watch when I was a kid, I didn't generally watch the beginning or the end just because it was not as interesting as the middle to me. So basically, I also liked space at the time because I grew up with Space Camp, the movie and stuff like that. So I liked space, and 2001: A Space Odyssey for me at the time was just like one of the best space, like fiction space movies that wasn't actually filmed in space. It's still actually one of the best space movies, not filmed in space, you know, and Gravity obviously comes, you know, it shares that, shares a place next to 2001: A Space Odyssey. And phenomenal is all I can say. Obviously, it's an easy 4 stars. It's very cool because I can remember, like they said in type before it started, like, you know, there's no air in space, so there's no sound. And of course, most movies in space there's sound. But what I love about that is like what Stanley Kubrick did in 2001: A Space Odyssey is, of course, being so realistic, and by literally not having any space and sound. But the genius thing that Gravity does, and I thought it was just genius. And the thing is I don't know. It seems plausible, but I haven't read up on it or anything like that, so I don't know if it's true. But the great thing about Gravity is the sound you hear, like at the very beginning and, well, towards the middle and all the way through it probably. But I was very aware of it, obviously, in the very beginning because you're first introduced to it at that point. But when they're doing the work on the stuff, and the way you'd hear the work that they're doing with the drill as if you're hearing it through the vibrations through the suit. And like I say, it'd be very interesting to know if that is realistically what it's like in space or not. But basically, if it's not, it's genius fiction space sound. But basically what I'm saying is you're not hearing the sound of the drill coming from the area, going through the nothingness of space and coming through your mask. You're hearing the vibration down the drill itself, in through the... It sounds like, you know, when someone's drilling on the wall, like on the other side of the wall or whatever. It's that kind of thing. But it's like every bump or whatever in the movie. But you have to be touching it, something, you see? Like if she's touching something and going through a door or whatever, but if something like it does, you know, blows up or whatever, you don't hear that because it has nothing, there's no direct touching. I'm really getting technical. But it's just one of the aspects I liked about the movie. So anything that you're like, the character is directly touching, and then you can hear it because it's vibrating through all the way to the suit. But whatever, that was a very cool technical point. But seeing this in 3D was great because I was thinking this is like the closest to being in space you're ever going to get, because those shots where they went inside, like Sandra Bullock's mask looking out, and it's like 3D, and it's like you're seeing, and it's like... My only recommendation for the very end of the movie, which was genius, but I would have possibly embellished a little more because I can see it being like people not noticing it, which is when that's the title of the movie, by the way, when she crawls up on the beach or whatever, and like first tries to push herself up, and it's like, you know, I think she like does that because she hasn't been in gravity situation for a while or whatever. I think there was like she tried to push up and fell down and like smiled or something like that. It was there, but I don't know if everyone necessarily would be able to get it. I mean, it almost slipped by me. But genius, absolutely genius, and I cannot wait for the Blu-ray of Gravity. It's what, like when you walk out of the theater, it's like when I saw There Will Be Blood. Well, me and my dad saw There Will Be Blood. We walked out of the theater, just that exhilarating feeling of walking out of the theater and having experienced something that you thought was so fucking phenomenal and is great. And it's something that is so rare. I mean, that hasn't happened since 1998, since I saw There Will Be Blood. So it's not all that common. Granted, I don't see movies very often, but I'm kind of thinking I wouldn't, you know, walk out of the theater like that after seeing, you know, The Internship or something. So I don't think it'd happen very often, even if I did see movies more often. So, but whatever. 4 stars, obvious 4 stars. One of the best movies of the 21st century for me. Gravity. Thanks for watching.